I think the best thing for people in Hollywood that are entrenched in that world is to shut the fuck up. Because as soon as they start talking, people like, as soon as Robert De Niro starts talking, I'm like, Jesus, get that fucking microphone away from him so I can enjoy Taxi Driver.
Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome. He's one of those, I'm moving to Canada if he wins, and he's never going to leave the White House if he wins. We're going to have Trump forevermore. I mean, hello, I hate to break it to you because I realize you're advanced age too, Robert, but people die. So he will leave. One way or the other, he's got.
Robert De Niro thought he was walking into a friendly political sparring match. Turns out Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly showed up with flamethrowers. One moment, he's delivering a dramatic monologue like it's Oscar night. The next, he's getting verbally folded like a hotel towel on live TV. What did Rogan say that left Megyn Kelly gasping for air from laughter? And why did De Niro suddenly look like he just learned Uber Eats doesn't deliver comebacks? This wasn't a debate. It was a full-blown verbal demolition.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like,
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the fuck up.
If Robert De Niro had $1 for every time he spiraled into a political tirade like a method actor trapped in an endless drama, he could probably buy a private island where no one ever utters Trump's name. Instead, he's out here at award shows flailing at the podium like he's shadowboxing a teleprompter that dared to disagree with him.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing. You've had this life where you were a fucking raging bull. You know, you were in The Godfather. Like, stop doing this. Man. Don't do this.
I'm terrified to meet some of those people I looked up to now.
You should be.
I mean, like,
I've met a few of them, and it's actors in particular, because their whole business is pretend. Their whole business is pretend.
Just when it felt like the world had collectively run out of patience for another red-faced rant from an actor best known for fictional mobsters, two wildly different media heavyweights entered the ring, separately but with zero chill. First up, podcast king Joe Rogan, who strolled into the discourse like he'd wandered onto the set of a poorly written political play and decided to rewrite the script with a sledgehammer, right in front of the cast, still shouting their lines.
People shouting him down like, your movies suck. That's not true.
No, his movies are very good.
Suck. He's one of the greatest actors. I mean, he's the heir apparent to Brando, blah, blah, blah. But he's a loon.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to just say what he is. He has, basically, I describe this to people. You know what's happening now? Because people are aware about concussions and the problems with CTE. When you get hit and you get a dinger in football, they put you in the blue tent, in the sideline.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen to Democrats. They need to go in the blue tent for a little bit, kind of, get your eyes checked, and then come out and be rational again.
Yeah, cool off
and
a
De
little.
Niro needs to go in the blue tent. I mean, because it's not calming things down. We need to be rational.
While De Niro was busy delivering his one-man Shakespearean meltdown to a room full of golden statues and half-asleep celebrities, Rogan was lobbing critiques from the safety of his podcast throne. He didn't name names, of course, but let's just say the shoe fit like it was crafted by a vengeful Italian cobbler.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks that.
That's what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men, and they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Told him that was a good idea?
Rogan didn't need to call out De Niro by name. He simply sketched a brutal caricature of actors who confuse playing tough guys on screen with actually understanding global politics. In Rogan's world, there's a specific kind of celebrity. Who thinks reciting lines about honor and justice in a mob flick somehow qualifies them to lecture voters on democracy? You spend 30 years pretending to be someone named Vito, and suddenly you believe you're an expert on foreign policy? That's like a barista claiming to understand rocket science because they once stirred a latte with impressive precision. With his signature blend of stoned amusement and sharp-tongued dismantling, Rogan went to work, less like a political analyst and more like a cage fighter with a podcast. He mocked the absurd confidence some celebrities carry, as if being famous automatically makes their opinions not just valid, but infallible. This wasn't about left or right, it was about ego. These are people who genuinely believe their SAG card is a passport to credibility on things like international trade or constitutional law. And while Rogan chuckled through his takedown, there was nothing soft about it. Buried beneath the laughter was a cold, surgical dissection of Hollywood hubris. De Niro, though never mentioned, might as well have had his name in the episode title, a living example of how gravitas can erode into grievance when self-awareness exits stage left.
Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in Cannes, France right now, as all of the muckety-mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions.
And then came Megyn Kelly. Where Rogan was laid back, sarcastic, and vaguely entertained by the circus, Kelly entered with the energy of someone who's been quietly collecting receipts and is now flipping through them with the enthusiasm of an IRS agent during audit season. She didn't name De Niro, but let's be real. When you say Hollywood loudmouth who mistakes the Oscars for Capitol Hill, it's not exactly a brain teaser. Unlike Rogan's casual podcast ramble or comedic shrug, Kelly's critique was sharp, surgical. A broadcast veteran tired of watching celebrity meltdowns being mistaken for political insight. She didn't bother roasting anyone's film resume. Instead, she exposed the delusion of actors who fancy themselves political, prophets while being completely insulated from the consequences of the policies they pretend to understand. Her point was clear: some celebrities treat award show podiums like campaign stages, except without the hassle of actually campaigning or knowing what they're talking about. They chase the applause of political relevance without earning it, standing. Ovations not for coherent arguments, but for having a recognizable name and a few decades-old paparazzi shots. To Kelly, this isn't just eye-roll material, it's a problem. Because when celebrities start posing as moral compasses in rooms where no one challenges them, the illusion of authority gets mistaken for actual leadership. And the only people silently disagreeing, the servers handing them champagne, too professional to call out the emperor with no political clothes.
He starts yelling at regular people. He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you. Like,
it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Like, you know what also I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going, right? Mm-hmm. So your vision of the world, your actual vision of the world, your ability to read a phone. You ever see old people's text messages? The fucking text on their phone is like as big as my hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so your vision of the world is blurring, literally and figuratively, and then you're getting old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Get off my lawn.
It's a feedback loop of delusion, a glamorous Groundhog Day where the same tired speeches are delivered to the same smug audience, met with the same hollow applause. And Megyn Kelly, never one to let a sacred cow graze in peace, went straight for the hypocrisy. She pulled back the velvet curtain on the fantasy that actors living behind gated walls and surrounded by private security somehow understand the everyday voter. These are people lecturing the masses about justice from a podium shaped like an Oscar, only to climb into a car that costs more than most people's homes. If Kelly's takedown had a thesis, it was this: authenticity matters. People are fed. Up with millionaire celebrities yelling at them from ivory towers, especially when those same millionaires spent the past decade in makeup chairs being told they're brave geniuses. Eventually, the costume comes off, the stage lights dim, and all that's left is a guy who once played a boxer, now shadowboxing imaginary political foes. What makes this double-barreled roast so satisfying is the contrast between the critics. Rogan is a former MMA commentator turned podcast emperor who probably thinks kale is government propaganda. Kelly is a razor-sharp media lawyer who can slice through pretentious nonsense with the speed of a legal objection. They don't agree on much, and they don't have to, because when someone's being ridiculous enough, it doesn't require a coordinated takedown. It just takes common sense and a microphone. Rogan mocks the performance, Kelly dismantles the foundation, Different styles, same destination. A brutal reality check for Hollywood's loudest voices.
Well, it's a global problem because it's the greediness of these studios and some of these actors that, make a lot more money overseas than they would here. But I look at the film industry in the United States, and my father worked in the film industry in Boston. He was a transportation coordinator for the Teamsters Union. So I know a little bit about it. I look at the film industry as we have some of the most creative people in the world.
Rogan thinks it's hilarious that actors take themselves so seriously. Kelly thinks it's terrifying. The tone may differ, but the message is the same. Robert De Niro has drifted from respected icon to walking punchline in a tailored suit. And the most brutal part? He doesn't even realize it. These weren't call-outs meant to spark a debate. They were showcases of absurdity so blatant, no rebuttal was necessary. Rogan didn't need De Niro to show up for a sparring match. Kelly didn't offer him a guest spot to argue policy. They simply laid out the case, like two prosecutors who independently arrived at the same crime scene, looked at the evidence, and started roasting the incompetents. De Niro's dramatic political rants have quietly crossed into comedy, and no one told him he'd become the punchline. What makes it sting even more is the unlikely alignment. Rogan and Kelly have no reason to tag team unless the target practically roasts himself. At this point, De Niro's persona resembles the celebrity equivalent of a man yelling at pigeons in the park. Loud, theatrical, and somehow convinced he's still making sense. Meanwhile, Rogan's fans are cackling at his vivid metaphors about Hollywood's political cosplay, and Kelly's viewers are nodding along with her pointed dismantling of millionaire revolutionaries. And both audiences leave with the same takeaway. Just because you starred in Raging Bull doesn't mean you're qualified to lead the next one.
Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about this publicly?
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
If you're going to come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, you can't just be, he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him.
He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
You probably, if you're going to express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're going to have to do better.
There's a delicious irony in watching a man who built his legacy playing gritty, grounded characters now drift several feet above reality. Robert De Niro, once the master of quiet intensity and iconic tough guy lines, now comes off like he's reading tweets in all caps and calling it political discourse. It's like watching a world-class chef slap a slice of American cheese on filet mignon and insist it's fine dining. If there's one unspoken truth that Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly seem to share, broadcasting from their very different ideological mountaintops, it's that the public deserves more than a millionaire meltdown in a tuxedo. There's something deeply sad about someone with that much access, power, and influence choosing to spend it on theatrical outrage, all while genuinely believing they're moving the needle. Real changemakers don't treat award shows like campaign rallies. They don't scream into the void and pretend the echo is a standing ovation. They understand that influence without substance is just noise. And lately, De Niro's rants sound less like the voice of a generation and more like your angriest uncle with Wi-Fi. It's the unexpected cultural crossover. Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, two people who probably can't even agree on pizza toppings, somehow locked into orbit around the same collapsing star named Robert De Niro.
The garbage outside today. Robert De Niro, officially sent by the Biden campaign, makes himself look like an idiot and reminds us why Trump is so popular.
It's so stupid. It was colossally stupid. If you're going to send somebody to go speak outside of the Trump trial, make it someone who's universally beloved, like a Michelle Obama. You know, she's not universally loved. She's not loved on the right. But I'm saying, like, at least within the left and the center left, and maybe even some center righties. Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement.
On one side, you've got Joe Rogan, a hoodie-wearing, cage-fighting philosopher sipping mushroom tea and waxing poetic about the absurdity of celebrity activism. On the other, Megyn Kelly, a sharp-tongued media sniper in heels, slicing through Hollywood egos with the precision of a neurosurgeon carrying a personal vendetta. They're opposites in every way: style, tone, even Spotify playlists. Yet somehow, here they are, spiritually high-fiving over the smoldering wreckage of Robert. De Niro's relevance? It's not just hilarious, it's oddly poetic. This is the media equivalent of cats and dogs forming a jazz band to roast the neighborhood rooster who won't stop crowing about politics. Rogan's sarcasm drips with laid-back disbelief, like he's watching a parody unfold in real time. Kelly, on the other hand, brings the steely precision of someone who's sat through too many galas and can spot faux moral authority from across the ballroom. They didn't coordinate. They didn't need to, but they both saw De Niro morph from screen legend to tuxedoed Twitter thread and hit the same note in perfect unscripted harmony. What makes it all land so hard is the truth humming beneath the punchlines.
Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference, and he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
Do you think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense.
This isn't just about Robert De Niro yelling into microphones like he's auditioning for Old Man Yells at Cloud the musical. It's a reflection of a bigger problem in celebrity culture. For decades, we've watched actors take the stage and speak as if their IMDb credits came with built-in moral authority, as if playing a war hero or a crusading lawyer suddenly made them experts on geopolitics. Sorry, Bobby, but playing Vito Corleone doesn't grant you the right to dictate foreign policy, and shouting about your political enemies like you're fending off a raccoon in your kitchen, that doesn't help either. This moment, this duel, takedown from Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, feels like a collective cultural eye roll. It's a clear sign that audiences are done pretending the guy from Raging Bull has all the answers to America's socioeconomic challenges. People are tired of getting lectures from celebrities who jet around the world privately and think hashtags count as diplomacy. The truth is, most would rather hear a thoughtful opinion from their barber than another million-dollar monologue from someone who thinks relatable means not owning a second yacht. So, no, they didn't shout him down, throw tantrums, or spam fire emojis. They simply held up a mirror, and De Niro didn't like what he saw. While he continues to rage in slow motion, Rogan and Kelly quietly and brilliantly torched the illusion. De Niro isn't the voice of a generation anymore. He's the angry uncle you mute at Thanksgiving. Thanks to this double roast, he's no longer just a political cliche. He's the punchline everyone saw coming, and that's the harshest truth of all. Not the mockery, not the sarcasm, but the slow, creeping realization that somewhere along the way, Robert De Niro stopped being taken seriously, not just by critics, but by the very people who once hung on his every word. Now he's the example people point to when explaining how fame doesn't equal wisdom. Joe Rogan saw the circus and laughed. Megyn Kelly saw the same circus and filed a detailed complaint. And De Niro? He's still backstage rehearsing a performance no one asked for. He doesn't realize the audience left at intermission, and the only ones still watching are there for the comedy, not the message. If there's a lesson here, it's simple. If you want to be taken seriously, maybe don't. Treat your Oscar speech like a Senate hearing. And if you're getting roasted from both ends of the media spectrum by people who rarely agree on anything else, maybe it's time to rethink your role. Because in the end, the real performance wasn't on the silver screen. It was live on TV, where a once iconic actor became the star of a roast he didn't even know was happening. And oh, what a show it was.